Hey folks, tonight we're starting an exploration into a world that's hard to picture today. A place where uttering I do carried a much grimmer meaning than we can grasp now. Imagine this. It's 1865. You're a young lady in London, set to wed the man you adore. You have a modest property from your grandmother. You've got savings from your novels. You own jewelry, artwork, ambitions. And then, in one ceremony, it's all gone. Not taken or misplaced, just handed over to him by the rules. Because, in Victorian England's view, you've just ceased to exist legally. Your identity, assets, and status as a person under law vanished. Welcome to Coverture, the legal end that came with marriage. And tonight, we'll cover what nobody highlights when idealizing the Victorian age, what really occurred for women the instant they agreed. Before we get into this tale as a group, I could use your support. If these overlooked histories draw you in, if stories of actual folks facing tough decisions touch you, could you spare a second to subscribe and hit like? And I'm really interested in this. Where are you listening from right now? Snug in bed in California or strolling through a drizzly night in London? Doing dishes in Melbourne or heading home in New York? Leave a comment. I enjoy picturing all the spots these accounts reach. Now, let's lower the lights. Perhaps switch on a fan for soft background sound and get comfortable, because what we'll uncover will alter your view of marriage, the past, and liberty. Let me bring you to 1765, a century prior to when our account fully starts. An English legal expert named William Blackstone penned what became a key work on law, Commentaries on the Laws of England. In it, he included a line that influenced countless women's lives for more than 100 years. He stated, and this is direct, "By marriage, the husband and wife are one person in law." Meaning, the woman's very essence or legal standing is paused during marriage, or at least merged and blended into the husband's. Pause and absorb that. The woman's very essence or legal standing is paused, not lessened, not cut back, paused as in stopped, as in inactive, as in non-existent. This wasn't verse, this wasn't figurative. This was the rule. Under coverture, a married woman turned into what law termed a femme covert, a shielded woman. Shielded by her husband's legal self, concealed under it, drawn into it. She and her spouse became a single entity, and that entity was him. But what makes this so intriguing and heartbreaking is this. Before tying the knot, the same woman was a femme soul, an independent woman. As a femme soul, she possessed freedoms that might surprise you. A single woman in Victorian England could hold property. She could enter agreements. She could take someone to court or face a lawsuit. She could operate a company. She could draft a will and choose who inherited her items after death. She could start bank accounts, put money in investments, handle her finances. In certain respects, an unmarried Victorian woman enjoyed more legal freedoms than a married one would for another 100 years. Let me sketch out what this looked like in real life. Suppose you're Elizabeth. You're 23, and you've inherited a lovely townhouse from your aunt. You also have $2,000 saved, a big amount in 1860. You've put out some poems under a false name, and you've just inked a deal for your debut novel. You're about to wed a dashing fellow named Thomas. The wedding arrives. It's gorgeous. The church has white roses. Your gown is stunning. Thomas is sharp in his morning suit. You exchange vows, you sign the book, guests toss rice, and right then, it all shifts. That townhouse, Thomas's now. The 2,000 in savings, he can pull it all out and you can't prevent it. The novel contract, any profits are his. Actually, if you penned it post-engagement, the rights could be seen as his. The jewelry from your mother, his. The dress you're wearing, technically his. Even mail addressed to you, he could open and read it, but it ran deeper than belongings. You couldn't create a will without his okay. If you wished to pass a locket to your mother after passing, Thomas needed to sign off. You couldn't form any contract, not to lease a space, buy bread, or employ help. If a paper slandered you, ruining your name, you couldn't sue. Thomas could, since the harm affected his asset, you, but you had no court standing. And what chills me most, if someone owed you cash, they owed Thomas now. But if you had pre-marriage debts, Thomas covered them, as you no longer existed legally to own debt, assets, or rights. You might wonder if exceptions existed, if rich families safeguarded daughters somehow. Yes, that's true. There was a tool called a settlement or restraint on anticipation. Before a rich daughter wed, family attorneys set up a trust-managed separate estate. This stayed legally apart from the husband's grasp. But the downside, this only succeeded if the family had money for lawyers and intricate trusts. And even so, the goal wasn't her freedom. It was to guard family assets from a wasteful spouse, keeping it in the lineage. She still couldn't access it. Trustees handled it, giving an allowance. For the rest, the middle and working classes, no safeguards at all. And this leads to one of Victorian history's standout figures, Caroline Norton. Born in 1808 to a theater family, she was lovely, clever, and gifted, a published poet and author. At 19, she wed George Norton, a lawyer and parliament member. It looked promising. It wasn't. George was possessive, envious, and abusive. Caroline later described his physical attacks, with staff holding him back from major harm. But here's where it gets captivating and appalling. In 1836, George charged Caroline with an affair with Prime Minister Lord Melbourne. He sued Melbourne for criminal conversation, basically for harming his property by betting his wife. The trial happened. Caroline couldn't speak. Why? She was legally non-existent. It was George versus Melbourne, two men battling over a woman without legal say. Melbourne prevailed. Caroline's name barely endured, but George persisted. He knew the law and wielded it ruthlessly. He seized their 3 sons, Caroline's kids she'd born and nurtured, and blocked her from them. When Caroline's writings made money, George claimed it all. It was his by right. Caroline could have departed. She could have exited. But where? No funds. He controlled them. She couldn't earn and retain income. She couldn't lease in her name, and her sons were his alone. Law was plain. Kids were father's property. Mothers had 0 claim. So Caroline took a bold step. She couldn't alter her fate, but she could push for law change. She started producing pamphlets, pieces, letters to Parliament. She outlined her mistreatment, her losses, the law's hopeless bind. She penned, "I exist and I suffer, but the law denies my existence." And gradually, ever so gradually, shifts occurred. In 1839, Parliament enacted the Custody of Infants Act. It didn't grant mothers equal child rights, but allowed petitions for custody of kids under 7 if the mother hadn't been found guilty of adultery. It was a small opening in the barrier. Caroline had made that opening, but property rights lagged by decades. Through the 1850s and 60s, advocates for women's rights pressed for updates. They highlighted the ridiculousness, the harshness, the unfairness. They shared tales of women stuck in abusive unions, unable to survive alone, women whose husbands squandered their legacies, women laboring as educators or merchants, but never seeing pay. Parliament pushed back. Lawmakers claimed granting property rights would shatter marriage's holy unity, make women overly self-reliant, disrupt natural hierarchy. Some said women couldn't handle finances anyway. So why grant rights? In 1870, Parliament at last passed the Married Women's Property Act, and it fell short. It let women retain post-marriage earnings from work and inherit minor personal items. But that's all. Everything else stayed the husband's: real estate, land, house, his; pre-marriage savings, his. The act had loopholes making it ineffective for many in real use. It wasn't until 1882 that real progress hit. The Married Women's Property Act of 1882 at last permitted married women to hold and manage property apart from husbands. They could purchase, sell, inherit. They could form contracts, sue, or be sued. Legally, they became people once more. To put the timeline in context, the U.S. declared independence in 1776. The French Revolution struck in 1789. Trains began in the 1820s. Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species came out in 1859. By 1882, the Industrial Revolution hummed. Homes got electricity, phones appeared. And only then, in 1882, did English married women earn the right to own possessions. But even the 1882 Act wasn't flawless. It didn't tackle custody directly, didn't fix divorce rules, didn't grant votes. That waited until 1918. And some attitudes it battled lingered for ages. Here's a surprise. In parliamentary talks on these acts, equality got little airtime. Instead, lawmakers debated for hours if property rights for women would spark home arguments. They feared family strife. They worried a woman controlling money might clash with her husband's choices. And what then? Chaos, disorder, society's collapse. Some lawmakers said the acts weren't about women's rights, really. Historians think the 1882 Act passed partly to curb fraud. Married pairs schemed to dodge debt. A man ran up bills, then shifted assets to his wife. Since she couldn't legally own, creditors couldn't seize. By making women legal persons, Parliament could hold them liable for debt and pursue fraud. Women's freedom as a byproduct of finance rules. Almost amusing, if not tragic. The 1882 Act had another odd impact. It enabled the suffrage push. Before, a big anti-vote argument was married women as husband extensions. Women voting meant married men got 2 votes. But with women as separate legal beings, that logic fell. The vote path cleared, though it took 36 more years. Now, picture this. You're a woman in 1879, 3 years pre-act, married 5 years. Your husband is unkind, not violent for legal action, but dismissive. He drinks excess and spends recklessly. Your father left $500 inheritance last year. You want to save, invest, use it to leave if needed. But he wants it for his failing venture. You refuse. He withdraws it anyway. His right. No recourse. Money gone. 6 months on, his business flops. Money lost. You're trapped with nothing. That was life for thousands, tens of thousands more. Or imagine you're a skilled painter. You sell art, but every penny goes to your husband for his fun while you scrape for supplies. You can't save, can't plan ahead. Your skill enriches him. You stay reliant. Or this, your husband leaves you. Departs one day, but still legally holds your property. You can't sell the home to eat, can't touch banks. You're in legal limbo, not supported in marriage, not free alone. These weren't rare. This was the system as intended. Coverture rested on women needing protection, that they were too fragile, too pure, too irrational for their affairs. The husband protected, provided, decided, framed as gallantry, concern, natural, but protection and confinement look alike from within. When someone controls your funds, assets, identity, when you can't contract or sue or will, That's not safeguarding, that's domination. And domination, even in love's guise, is domination. What hits me hardest about this past is its recency. When your great-great-grandmothers wed, many faced some legal death form. Saying "I do" wasn't just vowing love and care, it was yielding legal self. And they knew. Women marrying in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, they knew the sacrifice. But options were few. Society gave women limited paths. Marriage meant survival. The 1882 Act shifted that. Not totally, not flawlessly, but meaningfully. Women could legally own themselves, work and keep pay, inherit and hold legacies, make choices. From there, more became possible. Custody, divorce updates, votes, schooling, jobs, options. But it needed bold women like Caroline Norton who endured much but battled on. Activists like Barbara Bodichon, campaigning decades, male supporters like John Stuart Mill, arguing in Parliament. It took push, persistence, patience. The marriage legal death wasn't ancient. It was real, recent, and shaped our world. Every contract a woman signs alone, bank account opened, property owned, will made. That's from Victorian women's fights. They challenged centuries of law and custom. They declared, "We exist. We deserve full legal existence." So tonight, as you doze, ponder that. How much shifted in 150 years, how fiercely folks battled for taken-for-granted rights, and that this was just a start, the first breach in a solid wall. We've covered property, but more awaits. Next, we'll delve into a woman's finances, land, items, the exact ways financial grip trapped women. We'll encounter women who outsmarted law and those who didn't. We'll examine the property snare, and believe me, details will astonish. But now, relax. Let these tales settle like snow on Victorian London. Recall every right was fought for, every liberty sacrificed for. Sleep soundly. See you in our journey's next segment. We've discussed the legal end for married women, but I want you to grasp something more precise, more sneaky. The details hold the evil, as said. In Victorian England, those details built a trap so thorough, so well made, that breaking free was almost impossible. Tonight, we dive further into financial control mechanics, the specific tools that bound women to unwanted marriages. Let me share about a woman named Mary. Not Caroline Norton from before, a different Mary, an everyday one. Mary was in Manchester in 1875. She sewed for work pre-marriage. Good job, decent. She saved every bit. By 25, she'd gathered $30. Sounds small, but in 1875, $30 covered 6 months' rent or cloth for 12 gowns or a ticket to America. It was escape funds, liberty funds. Mary loved a man named Robert. He appeared kind. He was a clerk. They wed in a nice church service. Next day, Robert went to Mary's bank, where she'd deposited her $30 over 7 years and took it all. Mary learned when she visited, thinking to shift to a shared account. The manager looked sympathetic and said, "Sorry, Mrs. Your husband visited yesterday. The account's shut." Mary asked to open one in her name. The manager shook no. "Not without your husband's consent, ma'am. That's the rule." This was 1875. Recall, the initial Married Women's Property Act passed in 1870, 5 years back, but it shielded only post-marriage earnings and small legacies. Pre-marriage savings like Mary's? Open for her husband. Robert spent the 30 and 6 months on things Mary never learned. Fine dinners at spots she never saw. Drinks for pals at the pub, a fresh suit, boots, a watch, items his while she mended her wedding gown for another season. You might ask, couldn't Mary return to sewing, earn again? Yes, Under the 1870 Act, she could keep those earnings. But the hitch: Robert had to permit her work since Mary couldn't sign a job contract without his approval. She remained legally shielded by him. She could earn, keep it, but couldn't legally agree to the work to earn it, like having driving rights but needing permission for the car. And even if Robert allowed, even if Mary worked, her pay was at risk differently. If Robert had debts, and he built them fast, creditors might claim Mary's separate earnings should cover them as his wife. Law was unclear there. The 1870 Act aimed to protect women's pay, but judges ruled inconsistently. Some favored wives, others creditors. It was a risk. Let me describe another case. Different woman, different snare. Now 1868, 2 years before any property safeguard. Margaret inherits a home from her aunt, not fancy, a simple row house in Bath. But hers. Unmarried as a femme soul, she has full rights. She rents it, lives on the proceeds. $40 yearly, enough for modest independence. Then Margaret meets James at a dance. James is appealing, learned, good background. They court with chaperones. After 6 months, James proposes. Margaret accepts, but worries about the house, her safety net. She asks James what happens to it. James smiles reassuringly. "It'll remain yours, dear." I'd never take your aunt's gift. They marry, and legally, the house becomes James's instantly. Not joint, not shared. His. He owns it fully. Margaret can't sell without his consent, but James can without hers. Tenant rent goes to James. Margaret gets an allowance from her husband, from her own property's income. If she needs more for home costs, James can deny. It's his funds now, his asset. 2 years in, James opts to sell the house. Margaret pleads no. It's her aunt's memory. Means much to her. James sells anyway, invests in a pal's business. The deal fails, money gone. Margaret's legacy, her security, lost to a bad deal she never okayed. Could Margaret have guarded herself? Perhaps if wealthy and connected. Here's the detail on how marriage settlements functioned, showing Victorian views on women and assets. Before a rich wedding, lawyers from both families met to craft a settlement. The bride's dad would place property, land, cash, investments into trust. Trustees, often family attorneys, managed it. Income went to the wife as allowance, but she couldn't touch principal. Couldn't sell, couldn't decide investments. Trustees did. The husband couldn't access the trust either. That was the point, to keep it from him. But the settlement protected family assets, not the woman. If the husband wasted money, the estate stayed whole. If the daughter died, assets returned to her original family or kids, not husband. The woman was basically a channel, a means for asset passage across generations. These settlements cost to set up and run. Lawyers charged, trustees charged. Papers needed pre-wedding drafting, needing planning, talks. Only true rich could afford this safeguard. Everyone else, middle class, working poor, had no options. Let me provide numbers to make it tangible. In 1856, activists submitted a petition to Parliament for property law change. They gathered over 26,000 signatures, 26,000 women risking names on a public call for rights. Bold in a time when bold women were deemed unfeminine, but Parliament dismissed it. For 14 years more, no shift. Why? What scared Parliament? The debate records are telling. Lawmakers argued property rights for women would cause home discord. One said, roughly, if a wife controlled funds, she might oppose her husband's choices. Disagreement led to fights, fights to unhappy homes to society's end. So women with property would ruin civilization, not exaggeration. I'm serious. Others claimed women were naturally poor with money, too emotional, impulsive, Simple. If women managed property, sharp dealers would cheat them. They'd make bad investments, ruin themselves. So kinder to keep it in men's hands for women's protection. You see? And some truly saw marriage as sacred bond. Property laws treating spouses separate violated the spiritual fact they were one flesh. Allowing separate ownership denied marriage's holy essence. These views prevailed for years, decades. Only in 1870 did Parliament grudgingly pass the first act, so restricted it was nearly useless for most. But here's a dark amusement. Historians believe the 1882 Act, the true breakthrough, passed partly to stop fraud, not sudden concern for rights. Married couples found a loophole. Husbands built huge debts, gambling, business. Before creditors struck, he'd transfer property to his wife. Since she couldn't own, creditors couldn't take. The pair laughed while creditors fumed. Parliament loathed this. Rich creditors complained. Trade suffered. So they gave women legal status partly to make them accountable for fraud. Liberation as fraud prevention side effect. Can't invent that. The 1882 Act was groundbreaking. Don't misunderstand. It let married women own, control property as if single. Buy, sell, inherit, bequeath, form contracts, sue, be sued. Finally, married women were legal persons. But consider the date, 1882. The phone invented 6 years prior. Edison's bulb 3 years old. Brooklyn Bridge opened next year. Darwin dead months. Pasteur proving germ theory. Modernity emerging. And only in 1882 did English married women gain rights to own their brushes. And it wasn't perfect. The Act said women could own as if unmarried, but didn't auto-transfer existing property. If would pre-1882, assets stayed husbands unless legal steps to reclaim. Many women didn't know. Many lacked lawyer funds. Many feared husbands' reactions. Let me share one more tale. This ends happier. In 1885, 3 years post-Act, a woman named Elizabeth ran a thriving hat shop in London. She started it in 1883 after the Act, so legally hers. She earned well, saved, invested. Her husband William was a clerk earning less. William demanded Elizabeth's profits, said he should handle home finances properly. Elizabeth, knowing the law, declined. William sued, claiming husband rights. The judge favored Elizabeth. The shop hers, earnings hers, William no claim. When ruled, Elizabeth reportedly smiled at William in court and said, "I exist, and the law finally agrees." That line echoes Caroline Norton's from years back. "I exist and I suffer, but the law denies my existence." By 1885, law couldn't deny anymore. Women existed legally, financially, on their own. But this leads to a hard fact. The 1882 Act protected assets, but not women. A woman could own a home, but her husband could still hit her there. Own a shop, but he could control if she left to run it. Have bank money, but if violent, she'd need it to flee, and fleeing wasn't easy. Property rights vital, foundational, but just to start, women couldn't vote. Divorce nearly impossible, costly. Custody favored fathers. Domestic abuse widely okay. Law might admit women existed as owners, but not yet protect them as people. And something that strikes me, the rights fighters knew they might not gain personally. Caroline Norton campaigned decades for custody change, but by law shifts, her sons grown. The 1856 petitioned women unlikely to see property reform. Most didn't. They fought for daughters, granddaughters, strangers. That bravery, foresight, selflessness humbles me. They had reasons to quit, accept unchangeable system. Instead, they pressed, wrote pamphlets, spoke, signed petitions, went to court, made noise, refused silence. Gradually, reluctantly, the system bent. Not from powerful men enlightening, but women and allies applying constant pressure, made status quo unsustainable, exposed law's cruelty, absurdity, demanded better, kept demanding till got it. So when viewing your bank, property, title, investments, think of Mary watching her $30 vanish, Margaret losing inheritance to bad deal, Elizabeth in court claiming existence. There why you own property, why sign contracts, why exist legally, fully, married or not. The property trap real, cruel, kept women tied to bad unions, bad men, but didn't last. Couldn't. Women wouldn't allow. Next, we'll cover something more binding than property rules. The chaperone setup, the complex oversight net meaning Victorian women couldn't breathe unwatched. And when I say complex, I mean it. Fan codes, flower signals, hidden notes, rules stricter than max security prison, women's clever freedom finds within constraints. Fascinating. But now, rest knowing progress possible, systems changeable, determined justice fighters move mountains, even centuries-old law and tradition. Sleep soundly. See you in our Victorian marriage journey's next part. Imagine this. You're 18. You meet an intriguing person at a dance. You'd like to learn more. Naturally, you'd seek private time with them, right? Chat, stroll, discover who they are beyond polite chit-chat. But in Victorian England, that basic wish for a confidential talk with someone appealing was practically illegal socially. Not criminal, but more potent. It'd ruin your name forever. And your name was all. Tonight we delve into the chaperone system. I assure you, it was more detailed, more limiting, and more ingeniously bypassed than imaginable. Victorian women weren't passive sufferers. They were inventive rebels in the strictest oversight setup for middle and upper classes, and their ways to connect, flirt, show interest despite constant eyes, brilliant. Let me begin with the rules to show their suffocating nature. A young single woman, say a debutante, couldn't be alone with a non-family man. Not 5 minutes, not in a public park, not in her parlor door open. Someone always present, often her mother, sometimes aunt, older married sister, or hired companion. This was the chaperone, essentially a pro-third wheel. If walking with a gentleman, chaperone trailed 3 steps back, near enough to overhear, near enough to step in if he touched your hand. At a ball, chaperone sat by the dance floor, eyeing every waltz, tracking every turn. If a gentleman visited home, chaperone sat in, pretending to read or sew while hearing every word. And what really gets me, this wasn't solely about blocking physical touch, though forbidden too. It was about blocking any intimacy. Emotional, intellectual, the deep talk of true alone time. Victorian society knew connection thrives in privacy, so they erased privacy. But why? What scared them? Simple, painful answer. Virginity. A woman's marriage market value hinged on virginity. Not just fact, but reputation. A hint, whisper she might have been alone with a man could ruin her. Not him, her. The double standard astounding. Seen entering a closed carriage with a non-husband or close kin man. Ruined. Found alone in a room with a man, door open, nothing happened. Ruined. Walking park after dark unchaperoned. Ruined. Ruined meant unmarriable, social ghost. A warning tale at tease. Let me share Lady Diana Beauclerk's 1799 story. I know pre-Victorian technically, but attitudes same. Diana caught alone with a man at a house party. In library discussing books, clothed, servant saw, told hostess who spread it. Diana's engagement ended in a week. She wed another later, but name never recovered. Lifelong. known as the woman alone with a man in library discussing books. Imagine that life? Constant watch, knowing one slip, forgetfulness, bad luck could wreck your future, exhausting to consider. But here's Victorian women's cleverness. Couldn't ditch chaperone, couldn't alter rules, but could message within. They created secret languages chaperones couldn't decode or ignored. Famous one, fan language. Victorian women carried fans always, supposedly practical, ballrooms hot with candles, crowds, heavy clothes, but fans became calm tools, holding, moving, opening, closing. Each meant something. Fan closed, right hand down, not interested. Fan half open, friends only. Fan full open before face, interested, very. Fan across cheek, I love you. Fan to right cheek, yes. Left, no. Fan twirled right hand, I love another. Left, watched, and chaperones mostly allowed because it seemed modest. Young lady cooling demurely with fan in polite talk, proper. She might say, garden in 15 minutes, but mother's watching. Unless chaperone knew code, no suspicion. Of course, some chaperones knew, so young women innovated. Personal twists or use fans with friends who relayed. Became covert ops game. Then flower language, floriography. More accepted, seemed innocent, romantic. Gentlemen could send bouquet without issue, but each flower meant something. Red roses, passionate love, known. Yellow roses, friendship or jealousy, context-based. White roses, purity or secrecy. Pink roses, grace or thanks. Violets, loyalty. Forget-me-nots, don't forget me. Honeysuckle, devoted love. Orange blossoms, eternal love, marriage. Red tulips, love declaration. Yellow tulips, hopeless love. White lilies, purity. Red carnations, heart aches for you. Yellow carnations, disappointment. Clever part, bouquets sent complex messages. Imagine red roses with forget-me-nots, honeysuckle, passionate love, don't forget, devoted, or yellow roses with white lilies, red carnations, jealous but you're pure, heart aches, like texting via flowers. And what I love, gave women power. Gentleman sends flowers, woman replies with her choice, accept or reject advances, negotiate, express forbidden words. Wonderful 1855 story about Harriet. Unwanted gentleman sent red roses weekly, big bunches. Mother thrilled, meant serious pursuit. But Harriet wanted end without scandal, sent yellow carnations, orange lilies. Yellow carnations, disappointment, orange lilies, hatred. Message, disappointed in persistence, crossing to hatred. Stop. He stopped. Mother unaware. Chaperone system missed. Harriet ended unwanted suit without improper word. But chaperone rules had odder parts. Let me explain calling card ritual. Wild. Gentleman courting couldn't knock. Asked to see her. Too bold. Left calling card, small with name with servant. Servant took to lady's parents. If approved, invited him for specific time. On arrival, chaperone present. He'd sit in parlor, discuss weather, compliment painting, leave after exactly 15 minutes. Not 14, not 16, 15, longer presumptuous, shorter rude. After several, maybe 30 minutes, revolutionary. Perhaps chaperone shifted to room's far side, pretended not to hear. Victorian second base equivalent. Now, mind-blowing. Balls had 3 dance rule. Gentlemen could dance with one lady max 3 times per night. More, talk started. Assumed engagement near. Ladies' name damaged if 4 dances, no proposal. But clever. During dance, especially waltz, couples talked somewhat privately. Music loud, moving, chaperones distant. Those 3 dances became key for real talk. Men planned words, packing communication into 6 or 9 minutes. At some balls, gentlemen passed secret notes, clandestine cards during spins. slipped into gloved hand. Card might say, "You're my light," or "Rose Garden Midnight." Scandalous, romantic, rule-breaking. If interested, lady had chaperone return card end of night. Signal. Interested. You may pursue. If not, kept card, silent. Gentleman retreated, rejected properly. But working-class women? Chaperones. Usually no, couldn't afford, had to work, often alone in public. Met men at church, markets, Sunday events. Courtships less watched, economic need made oversight impossible. Ironically, sometimes more freedom-choosing partners than wealthy peers, but riskier. No chaperones, no reputation shield. Pre-marriage pregnant working women had fewer outs. Rich families could rush weddings, send daughters countryside 9 months, find fixes. Working women often in workhouses or streets. No chaperones, not freedom. Lack of safety. Systems supposedly protected women, kept safe, preserved purity, ensured good matches. But protection, imprisonment, similar, right? Can't have private talk, express feelings openly, constant surveillance, one error, social death, protection or control. Yet within, women communicated. Fan language, flower codes, clandestine cards, dance whispers, letters in careful words, readable to chaperones but double meaning for recipient. Women, creative. Had to be. Sad and inspiring, yes? Human connection desire so strong, people invent languages to express. They'll turn oppression tools, required fans, feminine flowers, into rebellion instruments. Now, fascinating question. Did surveillance restriction make Victorian marriages better, ensure compatibility, create enduring love? Not really. Maid marriages on brief chaperone talks, social rank. Couples often barely knew each other marrying. 3 dances, dozen 15-minute talks, some flowers, then wed, suddenly lifelong intimate partners, recipe for trouble. Chaperone system guarded reputations, yes, but prevented knowing future spouses, prioritized looks over truth. As long proper appearance, no seen impropriety, enough. What happened private post-marriage? Chaperones gone, couples found they'd wed strangers, and that leads to darker fact untouched. Chaperone system ended at marriage. After wedding, woman swapped constant watch by protective women for total vulnerability alone with barely known man, who now owned her body, property, kids, existence. Chaperone system not really protecting women, protecting market value till transfer to husband. After, his issue, his property, his to handle as wished. But Victorian women didn't know young chaperoned, told for protection, virtue, future joy. Many believed, many chaperones thought helping, systems so ingrained most couldn't envision otherwise. Few questioning, pushing, demanding freedom labeled unwomanly, unnatural, risky. Woman wanting privacy, not just seeking alone time with young man, threatening whole social order, suggesting maybe trusted for decisions, too radical for Victorian society. So instead, fans, flowers, 15-minute visits, elaborate codes, secret messages, rebellion masked as propriety, and slowly, system cracked. Because secret languages, covert prove system fails. Needing ways around rules means rules not serving purpose. If desperate to encode in flowers, chaperone system too tight. By late Victorian, loosening. Engaged couples could alone time, though not fully unsupervised. Chaperonage definition expanding. Self-supporting working women sometimes lived alone or with roommates, not family. Walls falling slowly. But psychological mark lasted longer. Idea woman's reputation her top asset. Belief women need constant guard from desires, men's advances. Assumption intimacy dangerous, privacy suspicious. Shape generation's post-formal system fade. In next part, we'll explore lighter seeming. After surveillance, control talk into calling card battlefield. Elaborate etiquette, strategic calls, social war via small cards. Think dating apps complex? Hear Victorian calling hours, visit lengths, cut direct art. Victorians made social interaction blood sport, fascinating. But now, appreciate. You talk who you want, walk alone, have private talks, express interest without flower codes. These simple freedoms hard won. Fought by women rejecting surveillance, control as protection. Sleep calm, knowing private thoughts stay private. See you in Victorian Journey's next chapter. Imagine every social exchange ruled by norms so intricate, precise one error could kill friendships, harm names, wreck marriage chances. Imagine a 2x3-inch cardboard wielding power to boost or banish you socially. Welcome to Victorian calling cards, where social scene was true battlefield, women warriors and tools. Tonight, we uncover what seems charming, outdated, calling on folks, leaving cards, visits. But beneath tea, polite chat was merciless social ranking, tactical moves, psychological war to make chess masters cry. Victorians didn't have social norms. They had social arms, knew their use. Let's cover basics to build foundation before wilder stuff. Calling card, small thick paper or card with printed name. Men's plain. Women's might have fine edges or subtle decor, nothing flashy, vulgar. Card quality, font, thickness signaled class, taste. To start or keep social tie, you called, not any time. At home hours, specific days, times lady received in social columns are mentioned. Arriving outside, major etiquette breach. Here's how. Tuesday afternoon, 3 to 5, Lady Catherine at home. You arrive. Don't knock. Driver or servant does. Butler answers. Handcard. He carries on silver tray to Lady Catherine in drawing room. Now interesting. Lady Catherine views card. Wants you? Tells butler show in. Doesn't? Says not at home. Not literal absence. Everyone knows she's there. Not at home? Polite lie. Don't want you. Butler returns. Sorry, madam, not at home. Leave card anyway. Rule. Depart. All understand rejection. Snub. Cut. If many learn, social status drops. But more layers. Cards varied by situation. First call. Leave card. Don't expect reception. Often card drop only. They return within week by leaving theirs. Third exchange. Maybe visit. Post ball or dinner. Leave card within 3 days, not 2, not 4. Mandatory. Skipping, grave insult implying disliked hospitality. Family death, card with black border. Border width showed relation, wide, close family. Narrow, distant or acquaintance. No border, black text, acknowledging loss, not family. Newlywed. You, husband, make bridal calls on gift givers, attendees, complete within month post-honeymoon, exhausting, some 50-60 calls, mind-blowing, cards for condolences, congrats, thanks. Turned corners meant personal delivery, not servant. Turned corner PPC, pour prendre congé, for leave. When leaving town long, imagine tracking? Victorian women did, had to. Social survival hinged on it. Now savage part, the cut, deliberate public snub. Levels from cool to total destruction. Cut indirect mildest. See approach. Suddenly shop window fascinates. No eye contact, no need acknowledge. Cut direct brutal. Look straight, eye contact. Turn away, no recognition. Social kill. Witnesses knew you deemed person beneath notice. Cut direct wrecked names, could end marriage prospects, mass social weapon. Famous, Countess of Jersey cutting Lady Caroline Lamb 1813, at ball. Powerful countess saw Caroline approach, eye contact, turned back. Room hushed. Caroline's name never recovered. Life. Others cut her following countess. Why? Caroline's public scandalous affair with Lord Byron, behavior improper. Countess's social enforcer cut, others followed or risked cut. How Victorian society enforced, not laws, social force, exclusion threat. One wrong scandal, influential deciding unacceptable, you done. But calling card system battlefield, women used strategically. Say mother with marriable daughter. Want her meet right young men. Rich, titled, good line. Cultivate ties with mothers of such sons. Call on them. Invite to at-home days. Ensure daughter present, lovely, doing charming like piano or watercolors. Meanwhile, use cards to block rivals. If another mother has competing daughter, strategically not at home, her calls. Skip inviting to events. Forget return calls. All rule compliant, but message clear. Not friends, blocking your circle access. Happened constantly. Memoirs, letters full of social slights, strategic cuts, card wars, women logged who called when, returns, at home, not at home for certain, and darkly fascinating. System kept classes apart. Lower class tries call, always not at home. They leave cards few times, never received, get message, different worlds, stop. But new to area or breaking in. Needed sponsors, established vouching, include in at-homes, introduce friends, guide card maze, no sponsors, socially invisible, why London season key. Concentrated April-August aristocracy, upper classes in London, balls, opera, parties, vital at-homes. Debut young woman needed scene, collect right cards, build network for good marriage, viciously competitive, mothers plotted, daughters maneuvered, families spent fortunes on clothes, jewels, hosting fancy at-homes for right callers, marriage market real, cards currency. Let me tell Cecilia, who mastered 1860s, Cecilia Merchant's daughter, not aristocracy, but wealthy. Family wanted title marriage, but titled families scorned merchants no matter rich. Cecilia's mother hired social strategist. Yes, existed. Usually poor gentlewoman knowing rules, ties. Strategist taught all. Present card, when call. Stay length, say, not say. Target, avoid families. Had Cecilia do charity contacting aristocratic women, organized fundraisers, donated big, became essential. These women called Cecilia's mother, acknowledging. Slowly, family climbed ladder. Took 3 years. 3 years perfect calls, timed card drops, strategic investments, careful reputation, but worked. Cecilia wed Baron's younger son, not stellar by aristocracy, but huge for merchant daughter. Mastered card battlefield, now timing. Victorians obsessed, proper call 15-20 minutes, longer presumptuous, thinking very welcome. Shorter insulting, better things. 15-20, women timed. If another visitor arrives, leave within 5. Why? Hostess divides attention, time up. Finish tea, polite excuse, go. Lingering rude. Meet acquaintance while calling, acknowledge, no long chat. Rude to hostess, brief greet, smile, back to hostess. Precision staggering, women followed. Consequences real. Reputation everything. Connection set marriage prospects, set future. Not game, survival. But fascinates. System created pressure, also female power. Women controlled access. At home her realm. Decided received, rejected 15 or 25 minutes. Controlled info, gossip, news, intelligence via visits. Could build, break reputations via strategic calls, cuts. In society giving women little legal power, card system gave social power, wielded ruthlessly. Consider, man courting daughter couldn't approach her, called on you, you decided received. one or multiple calls, daughter present or headache upstairs. You controlled access, thus marriage prospects. Significant in low-power world. No wonder Victorian mothers serious about card system. One area, real control, but exhausting. Track calls, returns, cards received, at-home days, obligations. Women kept notebooks logging interactions to avoid errors. Sick, pregnant, grieving, tired, too bad. Social machine turned. Skip schedule, assumed ill or fallen. Status suffered. Some pushed back. Frances Power Cobb, feminist writer 1868, called card ritual weary, senseless, reducing women to visiting machines. Argued better uses for hours weekly on meaningless 15-minute visits, but most no luxury. Needed connection system provided, needed daughters' good marriages, sons invited right homes, meet right ladies, opting out only if very rich, independent, or uncaring status. By late Victorian 1880s-90s, system fraying. More women working. Middle class, less time elaborate rituals. Phones meant calm without visits. Conventions relaxing slowly. But underlying. Women's reputation paramount. One misstep destroy. Acceptance on precise rules. Lasted longer. Some ways lingers. Still judge women harsher social mistakes than men. Care more women's reputations. Use exclusion punishment. Card system gone, but instinct control women via social pressure. Use reputation weapon. Make survival on perfect behavior. Still subtle. Next time text friend or drop by without protocol, appreciate freedom. Victorian women would have given much for reaching without card, chaperone, timed visit, social annihilation fear. Fought that freedom, many not living to see. Pushed senseless rules, questioned control-only systems, walls fell. Next, from social war to more calculated, dowry deal. How Victorian marriages business deals with contracts, negotiations, price tags on daughters, thought cards mercenary, here marriage settlements, jointures, actual pound value on young woman's hand, eye-opening. But now, rest knowing friendships need no strategy guides, social life no battlefield map, free connect simply wanting, no rules, cards, constant cut fear, gift Victorians gave, suffering system before change, sleep well. See you in Journey's next part. What if I told you Victorian England daughters had price tags, not figuratively, literally? Families bargained exact marriage value before vows. Lawyers in oak rooms drafted contracts listing pounds, shillings, land, portfolios. Marriage not just romantic or social link. Business deal with terms, conditions, exit provisions. Bride both sold product and exchanged currency. Tonight, we trace money. How dowries functioned, costs, beneficiaries, women caught amid financial setups. Once grasp Victorian marriage economics, all else discussed makes deeper sense. Start with basic. What was dowry? Simply, property or cash bride's family gave groom or his family at marriage, but simple misleading. Victorian dowries, complex financial tools involving land, cash, trusts, annuities, inheritance, needed lawyers, accountants, sometimes years negotiation. Official purpose, financial safety for bride, family gave resources for new life. Reality, pay to groom's family for taking daughter-in-law, compensation for adding her, giving name, actual numbers to ground, 1850, moderate gentleman, say 1,000 yearly income from investments, property, expected bride dowry at least $10,000, $15,000, 10-15 times annual. Modern, man earns 50,000, expects bride 500,000, 750,000, not gift, fortune. Aristocracy, astronomical. Lady Georgiana Spencer, wed Duke of Devonshire, 1774. Pre-Victorian but system same. Dowry, 30,000 plus allowance. Today, roughly 4 million plus payments. But key, money, not brides. Recall Coverture? Married, woman's property, husband's. Dowry for her security, he controlled. Could invest, spend, gamble, pay debts. She no say unless family smart, rich for marriage settlement. Settlement, pre-wedding legal doc placing some all dowry in trust, managed by trustees, lawyers or bride's male kin. Husband no principal touch but got income. Wife died, principal to kids or her birth family per terms, creating needed money. Lawyers draft, trustees fees, capital enough for worth. Only wealthy could. Everyone else, middle, modest gentry, professionals, no protection. Dowry direct to husband. Let me tell two 1860s sisters illustrating. First, Amelia, rich landowner's daughter. Wed baron's son. Father settled $20,000 in trust by a solicitor. Husband got 20,000 yearly income, no principal. Amelia died 30 years later, 20,000 to kids for education, marriages. Father protected money generations. Second, Charlotte, wed respectable lesser man. Dowry 5,000 substantial, but father skipped settlement, maybe trusted groom, avoided fees, thought amount not worth hassle. Whatever, Charlotte's dowry husbands at marriage. Within 2 years, lost most in failed railway stocks. Charlotte spent life scrimping, old dresses, money worries, legacy, security gone, no recourse his right, 2 sisters, 2 dowries, 2 outcomes. Difference. Legal shield only wealth bought. Now, women without dowries. Often didn't marry, married poorly, became mistresses. No dowry, limited prospects. Propertied men wanted propertied wives, simple math. Why marry nothing when 10,000 available? Why poverty when comfort? Big issue middle-class multi-daughter families limited funds. 3 daughters, money one good dowry. What? Invest all eldest, hope brilliant match. Youngers governesses, companions, spinster aunts on charity. Heartbreaking Victorian term, redundant women. Actual label. Women unmarriable, no dowry, no self-support, family burdens. By 1851, over 500,000 more women than men England. Not all no dowry, but many. Future bleak. Some rich parishes, charities gave dowries poor good character women. Fundraisers, donations, fund giving deserving girl 50, 100 for marriageability. Imagine future on charity. Strangers judging worth marriage chance. Yet even charitable dowries, women lost control post-marriage. System transferred resources one man, father, to another, husband. Woman conduit, not party. But dowries not just cash, involved property with issues. Bride inherited land, became husband's to manage at marriage. He got rents, decided tenants, repairs, upgrades. Land legally hers. Coverture no ownership transfer, just control. But she couldn't sell without consent. Couldn't evict, decide. Created odd spots woman owned vast lands but no say. Husband managed her property, took income. She got allowance from own land. Died no kids, land to birth family, not husband. Huge tension. Husbands pressured wives sell lifetime so he inherit proceeds. Families pressured no sell, preserve for blood. Woman middle, owning property couldn't control, pressured all sides. Let me tell Lady Rosalind, 1870s, inherited Devon estate from mother, married husband wanted sell for shipping investment. Rosalind's father threatened suit prevent. Dispute years, lawyers' letters, family sides, Rosalind between husband, father over her property. Eventually compromise, lease not sell, income split trust for kids, husband's use. Rosalind little voice in talks, owner, but men decided. Now surprise, dowries not always full paid at marriage, often installments years. Father promised 10,000 but pay 3,000 wedding, 3,000 first child, rest in will. Gave fathers leverage. If husband mistreated daughter, threatened hold payments. But women caught in father-husband money fights. Father die pre-full pay. Husband sue estate for rest. Imagine young bride mourning father while husband sues family. Happened often. Dowry negotiations months. Pre-formal engagement, family lawyers met hammer terms. How much? When? Cash, stocks, property, no kids, what? Wife dies young, husband's debts, dowry creditor protected, negotiations contentious, family's posture, threaten withdraw, demand better. Bride, groom often unaware details, new rough sums, specific legal men's business, wonderful terrible, 1843 letter young man to friend, lawyers haggling settlement. Her father insists trustees. My father says insult my character. Meanwhile, barely spoken girl. Hoped pleasant because important not liking. Financial terms acceptable. And cruelest, created women market. Literally, men discussed brides by dowries. Miss Smith worth $10,000. Jones girl brings $15,000. Surrey estate. Women commodified, value to assets. Not hidden, shameful. Open, accepted, expected. Etiquette books discussed reasonable dowry by gentleman's income, status. Mothers calculated dowry for daughters marriable. System assumed women economic assets transferred father to husband, but some women knew game, played smart. Substantial dowry woman had leverage. Refuse disliked suitors knowing others come. Question dowry management. Insist settlement terms. Not all did. Many young, sheltered, intimidated. But some. Cases women refusing marriage till fathers agreed specific terms. Cases walking engagements discovering groom's bigger debts. Cases using financial worth leverage. Rare, criticized mercenary, unwomanly. But protecting selves only way system allowed. Gradually, system shifted. 1870, 1882, Married Women's Property Acts meant dowries no longer auto husbands. Woman could own wedding gifts, inheritance, dowry, at least theory, but culture lagged. Post-1882, families still negotiated dowries. Husbands expected manage wives' money. Settlements, jointures language lasted 20th century. Fundamental view woman bring resources marriage, value partly financial, took longer fade. Think modern wedding costs. Who traditionally pays? Bride's family. Why? Dowry tradition. Bride's family provides launch resources, not called dowry but assumption same. Bride's gives, groom's receives, or engagement rings, man gives costly ring. Why? Romantic partly, but historically financial guarantee. He breaks, she keeps, sells. Compensation damaged name, lost market time. Ring mini reverse dowry, his security deposit. Dowry echoes surround. Stripped explicit negotiations, contracts, lawyers, trustees. But marriage economic exchange embedded traditions. Dowry system practical, cruel, strategic, oppressive. Provided some security while commodifying all, gave fathers daughter future control, husbands wife fortune control. Designed by men for men, assuming women assets managed not people respected. But some women found agency, some fathers truly protected daughters, some marriages, starting financial, became partnerships, system flawed. People within, not all villains, victims. Complex humans navigating complex rules. And those rules eventually changed. Women gained property rights. Dowries less formal. Marriage more choice, less economics. Change slow, painfully, but occurred. Next, from financial transaction to romantic act. Proposal itself, elaborate protocol asking, "Will you marry me?" Father's permission role, engagement period, broken engagements, even proposal, supposedly romantic, governed strict rules, severe consequences. One misstep ruined all. But now, rest knowing relationships not business deals, worth not pounds sterling inheritance prospects, your person not portfolio. Victory sometimes taken granted, hard won, sweet dreams, meet in Victorian marriage journey's next part. There's a romance story moment supposed magical. Proposal, knee down, heart racing, asking loved one forever. Intimate, personal, two choosing. Except Victorian England, none. Proposal carefully staged with rules so elaborate wrong, move destroyed relationship. And surprising, actual couple lease control. Tonight, unpacking proposal, from private father meetings pre-question to rings with hidden meanings to engagement, supervised yet scandalous. And what when engagements broke? Devastating, especially women. Start with near absurd today. Proper society, man asked woman's father permission marry before her. Not courtesy, tradition, requirement, not respect, property rights. Recall Coverture, married woman husband's legal property. Proposal one man asking another acquire daughter, father owner, suitor buyer, daughter asset transferred, fathers took seriously. Let me tell Thomas, 1857. Thomas courted Eleanor nearly year, proper chaperone visits, danced balls, meaningful glances. Thomas sure Eleanor, yes. Arranged private father meeting, meeting bad. Eleanor's father grilled Thomas on income, debts, prospects, family, health, faith. 2 hours. Then asked leave, wait decision. Thomas waited 3 weeks agony, unable to discuss with Eleanor, no permission yet. Finally, Eleanor's father messaged, permission but conditions. Thomas secure better firm position. Take life insurance naming Eleanor beneficiary. Agree settlement protecting Eleanor's small inheritance. Only after agreeing all, Thomas proposed Eleanor. And Eleanor unaware. Knew Thomas spoke father, not interrogation, wait, conditions. First heard when Thomas finally asked, said yes, waited weeks wondering delay. But not all fathers, yes. No appeal workaround. Father refused, courtship over. Could elope theoretically, social suicide. Family cut off, society excluded, woman likely disinherited. Most price too high. Heartbreaking 1863 case. Beatrice loved man father deemed unsuitable. Younger son no inheritance. Father refused. Beatrice begged, pleaded, argued love, modest life. Father unmoved. Already chose different suitor, better finances. Beatrice refused father's choice. Couldn't marry loved. Remained unmarried life. With family, watching siblings wed, have kids. 23 when father refused. Died 71, never married. 50 years with others' decision. Now, father yes. Suitor finally proposed woman. This rules too. Proposal in person, ideally semi-private. Quiet garden corner, okay. Parlor door open, okay. Completely alone, not compromised reputation. Too public, wrong. Intimate, not show. Man eloquent, not too passionate. Express admiration, affection, future hope, not physical attraction, desire. Improper. Victorian proposals, masterclasses saying love without suggesting body attraction. 1875 etiquette book example, gentlemen say, Miss Catherine, you know I hold you highest regard. Your grace, intelligence, virtue make ideal companion for sensible man, honored if consent become wife. Notice missing. Beauty, passion, love, mention, admires virtue, intelligence, wants suitable companion, job interview, not love declaration. Woman expected, surprised, even anticipated months. Blush. Look down modestly. Possibly pretend need think, even yes. Too eager, unladylike. Too prepared suggested trapping scheme. Answer phrased carefully. Simple, yes, too bold. Something like, honor me with proposal, accept with gratitude, gratitude as if favor proposing loved one. But interesting. One few courtship moments, woman real power. Could say no, no final. Gentlemen couldn't ask again immediately, pressing ungentlemanly. Some women strategic. Refuse without full close. Not ready answer now. Meant maybe later. Gentlemen try 6 months or year. And some no for interesting reasons. 1869, letter woman to friend. Mr. Thornton proposed today. Refused. Perfectly acceptable. Good family, income, teeth. But bores me completely. Rather unmarried than life-hearing crop rotation. Good teeth noted. Refused boredom. Love courage, choosing spinsterhood over tedium. Of course, refusing risks. Too many refusals, reputation too picky, proud, or worst. Flirt collecting proposals, no merry intent. Reputation that proposals stop. Now engagement rings, not what think. Popular Victorian, but not always diamonds. Queen Victoria set trend. Prince Albert proposed serpent ring. Serpent-eating tail symbolized eternal love, so serpent rings fashionable. Other, emeralds, sapphires, pearls, often patterned spelling words via gem initials. Diamond, emerald, amethyst, ruby, emerald, sapphire, topaz spelled dearest. Acrostic rings, hugely popular. But crucial, ring legally important. Man breaks engagement, woman keeps as compensation damaged reputation, wasted time. Woman breaks, returns. Asymmetry shows who faulted when failed, which to broken engagements, breaking serious, not awkward, legally socially devastating, women especially, broken engagement life-ruining. Man breaks, woman could sue breach promise. Actual legal action, court claim damages harm reputation, emotional pain, lost chances. Win, he'd pay, sometimes big sums. Records breach cases, women awarded hundreds, thousands pounds. Courts recognized broken engagement damaged woman's prospects. Publicly attached one man, withdraw. Others saw second hand, tainted, less desirable. Deserved compensation. But cruel. Woman breaks, can't sue. Faced social hits as severe as if he broke. Assumed discovered terrible him or worse, behaved improperly. Either, reputation suffered. Let me tell Victoria, not queen, different. 1881, engaged gentleman 8 months. During, discovered hidden gambling debts. Serious, broke engagement. Within month, rumors she scandalous, seen alone other man. Unstable, cruel, humiliating fiancé. None true, but truth irrelevant. Broke engagement, society needed explanation, created one. Victoria fewer calling cards next season, fewer parties. Finally married 3 years later, much lower status than original. Breaking cost socially, economically, and angering, men could sue breach too, but rarely. Why? Broken engagement no damage man's reputation like woman's. Man broken pied maybe, assumed woman poor judgment, future prospects not ruined, women's were. Engagement, period, strange. One hand, more freedom than courtship. Hold hands public. Walk without chaperone, not far, long, dark. Exchange daily letters, not weekly. Alone time parlor, door open, part before night. Other hand, fraught anxiety, until married, things wrong. Man change mind, finances shift, die. Death common, man's sudden death left fiancé limbo. Not widow, unmarried, not single, engaged. Suspended uncertainty, woman careful during. Impropriety hint, scandal whisper. Man break with society approval. Had be perfect, modest, grateful, patient. Temper, independence, dissatisfaction, display, justification, withdraw. 1878, etiquette book advises engaged women. Remember, fiancé evaluates fitness wife. Show domestic skills. Prove even-tempered, agreeable. Don't burden complaints, worries. Auditioning wife role. Perform well. Auditioning own life role with supposedly loving man. Engagement not to building life. Probation woman prove worthy. Lengths varied, typically 6 months year. Shorter okay if older or urgent. Military, business, longer raised brows. Why delay, doubts, finances. During, woman prepared trousseau. Clothes, linens, home items to marriage. Massive task. New dresses, nightgowns, undergarments, handkerchiefs, shawls, gloves. Table linens, bed, towels. If afford, furniture, dishes, silver. Middle class 1860 bride cost $50–$100. Months working wages. Upper class hundreds pounds. Bride's family paid a top dowry, all marked new initials, monogrammed linens, embroidered handkerchiefs, labeled clothes. Hours needlework by bride or seamstresses. Expected. Bride without proper trousseau, unprepared, possibly poor, not respectable. Fascinating detail. Trousseau included mourning clothes, black dresses, gloves, veils. Death common, prepared mourn new husband, in-laws, family. Planning widowhood pre-marriage. Cheerful. Finally, after month prep, negotiation, anxiety, wedding. But not discussing ceremony tonight. Later. Want to understand how much before wedding, how much go right reach day, father approve, financial talks succeed, proposal proper, accepted, engagement survive scrutiny, trousseau ready, every step disaster chance, every disaster hit woman hardest, and through negotiations, protocols, preps, supposed about love, romance, to choosing life. Maybe sometimes. Some couples truly loved, system worked favor, but system not for love. For property transfer, hierarchy maintain, women's choices control. Love, happy accident. What strikes about proposal protocol reveals Victorian marriage inequality. Every stage, man more power, choice, protection. Woman waited chosen, father's permission, proposal, through engagement proving worth. Anything wrong, she suffered. Yet within, some women agency. Some no to boring suitors. Some negotiated terms. Some used breach laws protect from bad men. Worked within rules create small power, choice spaces. Gradually system loosened. By late Victorian, asking father more courtesy than must, some circles. Women, slight more engagement freedom. Proposal language more romantic, less business. But core assumption marriage done to women not chosen by took longer change. Echoes persist. Traditions fathers give daughters weddings. Proposals men ask, women accept, refuse, rarely reverse. Value women's yes more than enthusiastic future planning. Next, something makes proposal tame. Wedding night, what Victorian brides told, not told. Terror waiting on supposed happiest night, where romance fantasy crashes reality, devastating. But now, comfort relationships start choice, not property transfer. Yes or no matters. Yours give, not father granted. Progress forget, celebrate. Rest easy. Meet in Victorian journey next. Wedding over, guests left, rice thrown, cake cut, vows said. Now, first time alone with man, husband in bedroom, no clue what happens. Reality, countless Victorian brides. Entered marriage virtue, praised, purity celebrated, sexuality knowledge zero. What discuss uncomfortable. Challenges romantic Victorian wedding image, but important. Wedding night terror shaped generations, women's views, marriage, intimacy, bodies. Before further, acknowledge, deals sexual ignorance, fear, trauma. Handle with care, respect. Historical reality disturbing. Skip if need. But stay, understand why wedding night perhaps cruelest Victorian marriage system moment. Start what Victorian girls taught sex pre-marriage. Breathtakingly, nothing. Well-bred girls kept deliberate ignorance. Mothers no explain. Schools no teach. Reproduction books locked. Dictionaries omitted related words. Assumption, pure girls shouldn't know till married. Knowledge corrupt, make less innocent marriageable. 1866, Advice Manual, Pure Woman, No Knowledge, Physical Relations Sexes Till Wedding Night, Husband Instructs wedding night post-marriage, Too Late Change Mind. Imagine binding contract unknowing key term. Victorian brides did, but surely mothers prepared somehow, warned basics, some, but explanations vague, euphemistic, useless. Mother might say, husband, certain rights. Submit patience, grace. May uncomfortable first wifely duty. That's it, certain rights. Uncomfortable. Know what happens, no anatomy, no pleasure, desire, just submission, duty. 1872, letter, young bride to sister. Why mama not tell? Why no one? Felt assaulted, wept night. Surely not marriage. Mother told submit patience, not what submitting to. Some mothers tried helpful, hampered own ignorance, language. Gave daughters pamphlets, approved marriage books full euphemisms, metaphors, incomprehensible. Popular 1878 manual compared intercourse garden planting, two souls, union, divine purpose. Beautiful, zero practical. Bride might grasp spiritual, not physical her body, husbands in unimagined ways. Some mothers, traumatic wedding nights themselves, couldn't discuss, changed subject. Said understand soon, left daughter's face unknown alone. Result? Wedding night trauma common, disturbingly. Sophia married 1865. Diary survived, describes, didn't understand happening. Believed hurt, perhaps killed, screamed, fought, husband angry, said hysterical, natural, all wives bear. How natural when felt violence. Sophia not alone. Historians studying diaries, letters found countless similar. Brides terrified, felt assaulted, spent nights crying, tried run mourning, brought back family told except wifely duties. Some nights so traumatic, brides ill, physically from shock. Medical records, brides fainting, hysterical fits, fevers. Doctors called wedding suites calm, hysterical brides. Medical profession largely unhelpful. Most men doctors believed distress feminine weakness, not ignorance and trauma. Prescribed sedatives, laudanum mostly, told husbands patient. Some were, many not. Be clear, not all Victorian wedding nights traumatic. Some couples lucky, some grooms gentle, patient, some brides better prepared, some couples genuine affection, approached intimacy care, communication. Queen Victoria seemed positive. Morning after, diary, never such evening. His excessive love, affection gave heavenly love, happiness. Victoria loved Albert, genuine partnership. Somehow, despite obstacles, happy night. Victoria advantages. Queen, access info if sought. She, Albert affection pre-marriage. Albert kind, considerate. Most women not queens. Most men not Prince Albert. Ordinary couples no info, prep, often no affection. Experience devastating. And worse, Victorian marriage experts, male, debated women even sexual pleasure. Many believed women naturally passionless, no physical desires, sex reproduction, male satisfaction. Influential American physician William Acton, 1857 book, Majority Women, Happily, Not Much Troubled Sexual Feeling Any Kind, Happily, as if no desire, blessing, pleasure, improper wives, belief, real consequences. If women no desire, no need make sex pleasurable. No go slow, communicate, care experience. Sex husband's right, wife's duty. her pleasure irrelevant, but reality. Women had desires, could pleasure. Victorian women wrote privately letters, diaries, publicly taboo. Woman admitting enjoy sex vulgar, unwomanly, depraved. Women positive experiences kept quiet, negative too, complaining duties improper. Conspiracy silence, each bride generation ignorant as last. Some attempts better info. Few progressive doctors, reformers published bride prep books, but limited Victorian sensibilities, not explicit, not discuss pleasure, frame duty, reproduction, and didn't reach needed, expensive, sold discreetly, sometimes behind counter, ask. What young unmarried woman courage, ask marital relations book. Many shops no sell unmarried women. Info existed technically, locked libraries, books young women couldn't access, language clinical, euphemistic, useless. Meanwhile, men access women didn't. Medical texts, drawings, even pornography for men seeking. Men not ignorant like women. Sexual knowledge gap husbands, wives' wedding night enormous. Created problem, husband supposed instruct bride. But many young men nearly ignorant, might crude info friends or prostitutes, acceptable men horrifyingly, not no gentle, frightened, uninformed wife. Some husbands patient. Took time, reassure, slow, comfortable as possible. Credit treating wives, kindness system not require, others not. Saw night right, long delayed, waited months, years, endured courtship, chaperones, propriety. Now wife property, do as pleased, law supported. Recall earlier, married wife couldn't refuse. Marital rape no crime. Recognized England 1991. Husband's conjugal rights absolute. Bride resist, refuse. Husband legal proceed. That's not marriage. Legalized assault. Some historians argue practice most husbands no violent force. Social pressure gentlemanly. Neighbors hearing screams, wife health concern. Restrained many. Maybe. But legal. If chose force, no intervene, no punish, shaped women's experiences, even no force, threat always there. He could if wanted, no consequences. Wedding night just start. Wives expected submit regularly. How often husbands call. Some manuals warned men not demand too often. Drain vital energy, harm health. Warnings, husband's health, not wife's comfort. Other manuals told wives never refuse. Refusal sin, wifely duty failure. Good wife submits cheerfully, no complaint. If not enjoy, pretend. Husband's pride over honesty. Imagine that life. No body control, no say no, no communicate needs, desires. Taught shouldn't have. But remarkable. Some Victorian women found pleasure, intimacy, marriages. Despite obstacles, they, husbands, learned together, developed private intimacy, understanding, language, surviving letters, diaries, evidence couples genuinely enjoyed, communicated coded, found ways physical relationship work, succeeded against system, not from. Some women rebelled quietly. Confided sisters, friends, passing practical info next brides, whispered advice wedding breakfasts, wrote careful letters engaged friends, hinting expect without explicit. Created underground info networks, subverting official silence, by late Victorian, changing slowly, suffrage gaining. Rights advocates demanded women's bodies, reproduction education. Progressive doctors, honest marriage guides, silence conspiracy cracking. But most Victorian era, wedding night terror moment for many, transition innocent girl, traumatized wife, no prep, no meaningful consent, no recourse bad. Why wedding night matters, understanding Victorian marriage, reveals system worst. All rules discussed, property, chaperones, cards, dowries, proposals, led here. Woman discovered body not own, marriage gave husband absolute control, fear, pain, irrelevant rights, dark, disturbing, historical reality. Understanding appreciates far come, work remains. Progress, sex ed exists, marital rape crime. Women bodily autonomy law, if not always practice. Echoes remain. Assumption, women's sexuality controlled. Belief, women's pleasure, less men's. Silence, women's experiences. Attitudes not vanish, Victorian end. Evolved, persisted, adapted. But resistance too. Women whispering advice, demanding better info. Refusing suffering inevitable. Built foundation change. Fought sex ed, women's health, radical women's bodies belong women. Next, something connects all, obedience clause. Marriage vows words, love, honor, obey, not ceremonial. Legal, social weight. We'll explore obedience meant Victorian marriage, enforced. Women dared disobey what happened. After wedding night, every other day, night married life. Obedience governed. But now, rest knowing body yours, consent matters, knowledge available, progress however slow real. Sleep peacefully, be with you journey next. 3 small words. Victorian vow changed all. And to obey, not cherish, support, partner. Obey as husband orders, you follow, his will over yours. Promised before God, family, law, surrender, judgment, life, rest. Not ceremonial, poetic, meant exactly. Victorian society, multiple enforced mechanisms, legal, social, violent. Tonight, exploring obedience looked daily married life, far more widespread imaginable. Start theology, Victorian obedience, not just law. Divine command. Victorian Christianity taught God hierarchy. God over man, man over woman, parents over kids. Not interpretation. Doctrine pulpits England. St. Paul's Ephesians cited constant. Wives submit husbands as Lord. Husband head wife as Christ Church. Comparison. Husband's wife authority. In Christ's church, absolute, divine. Disobey husband, not marital issue, religious sin. Not failing wife, failing Christian. Sermons reinforced. Ministers told wives obedience, sacred duty. God judge defiance. Wife's highest calling, submission, husband's will. Not fringe, mainstream Victorian Christianity, but theology limited. What obedience practice? Daily. Let me tell Francis Manchester, 1873. Husband Edward shopkeeper. Comfortable life, no extreme struggle. But Edward believed right control household. Edward chose Francis wore. Not occasion appropriate, specific dress daily. Decided 8. Francis not hungry, Edward insist. Mealtime. Decided bed, rise times, controlled social life fully. Friend invite tea, Edward decide accept. Francis visit mother, Edward approve time, length, read letters in, out, questioned conversations, demanded account every minute away shop. Edward violent? Not really. Never struck Francis known, but didn't need. Francis promised obey, taught duty, Edward enforced via constant watch control. Francis's diary survives. Asked Edward, purchase new bonnet ribbons. Said no need. Asked send small birthday gift sister. Said budget no unnecessary. Asked afternoon walk. Said weather unsuitable. Feel living small cage. Edward all keys. Normal. Legal. What obey meant. Now, not all husbands controlling, many less. Many couples negotiated, decided together, respected preferences. But key, even kindest, power imbalance stayed. Kind husband chose kind, could change any time. Wife no recourse, power, legal resist stricter enforce. Law clear, husband right, all household decisions. Live where, spend how, raise kids. Wife work, travel, see family. She request, suggest, he decide. Disobey what? Answers social pressure to violence. Victorian society backed all. Start social pressure. Wife openly defying husband, unwomanly, unnatural, maybe insane. Friends distance. Family urge submit. Ministers counsel wifely duty. Community pressure obey. 1868 Yorkshire case. Margaret refused move new city, husband job accepted. Elderly parents needed care. Begged husband refuse position or let stay while he settled. Refused both. Demanded immediate come. Margaret firm. Wouldn't abandon parents. Husband to minister visited Margaret, said sinning. Then own mother told selfish, unwifely. Siblings stopped talk, neighbors cold. Pressure unbearable. 3 weeks, Margaret agreed. Move. Parents paid companion. Margaret never forgave self. Per letters never forgave husband, but obeyed. System worked. Individual defiance met collective enforcement. Defying wife threatened all husband's authority. System couldn't allow. But social pressure gentle. Physical punishment accepted limits. Victorian law, no unlimited beat rights. 1861, Offenses Against Person Act made assault illegal relation regardless, but practice, police, courts, reluctant domestic intervene. Attitude, husband-wife private unless excessive, excessive defined generously. Infamous, 1782 decision pre-Victorian precedent held. Judge Francis Buller allegedly said, "Man beat wife stick no thicker thumb." Rule of thumb. Historians debate, Buller said, or satire, whether many believed law. Moderate wife correction acceptable. Slap, shove, beating if provoked disobedience. 1856 Conduct Manual Wives. If husband anger corrects physically, reflect what provoked. Wise wife avoids testing patience. Catch, hits her, reflect her wrong. Victim responsible prevent abuse. Courts reinforced. Multiple Victorian cases wives sought protection. Violent husbands, judges asked, wife provoked. Disobedient, refused order. Disrespectful, neglected chores. Judge might rule husband's response regrettable, understandable. 1874 Case chilling. Woman sought separation. Husband broke arm. Judge asked refused marital relations, admitted once ill. Judge ruled refusal, disobedience, provocation, denied separation, sent home to armbreaker. Not until 1878 Matrimonial Causes Act wives seek separation grounds, physical cruelty. Not divorce, separation, had proved cruelty severe. Repeated beatings, serious injury, life fear. Slap no, shove no. Bar horrifically high. But physical not only enforcement, economic control more common, effective. Recall married women no own property, earned separate till 1880s. Even after acts, culture husbands controlled finances. Wives allowances, household, husband set amount, wife disobey. Reduce, eliminate allowance, might know money, food, clothes, and needs, beg every penny, reinforcing dependence, his control. 1879, letterwoman sister, James displeased attended missionary society without permission. Reduced household allowance, half month. Don't know manage, apologized much, says learned disobedience consequences. Attended church meeting, missionary society, nothing scandalous, improper, but no permission. Cut money half, legal, accepted. Husbands could. Some used kids' leverage. Wife disobey, threaten send kids boarding relatives, recall kids legally fathers. Could take, she no stop till late 19th century custody reforms. Threat often enough. Mother, endure almost anything, risk losing kids. Be clear. Not all Victorian husbands tyrants. Many loved wives, treated partners. Many couples decided together, respected opinions, lived relative equality despite legal. Marriages existed spite system, not because. Good marriage depended husband choosing reasonable, could change. That's insidious obedience. Not just abusing husbands. All husbands had authority. Every wife knew if husband enforced strict, no recourse, and obedience shaped women's personalities. Victorian girls raised obedient daughters become obedient wives, taught no strong opinions, argue, insist preferences. Independence discouraged. Independent women disobedient wives. Cycle suppressed women's assertiveness, intelligence, leadership from childhood. Learned defer, placate, submit. Not natural submissive, survival required. But women resisted. Even obedience constraints exercised power, some strategic compliance, obey letter, subvert spirit. He say no charity money, donate items. Forbid particular friend, arrange accidental public meets. Others used obedience language manipulate. Phrase desires questions, seeking wise judgment. Darling, don't you think prudent? Make husbands think idea theirs. Indirect, exhausting, worked. Some openly defied, faced consequences. Refused morally wrong orders. Continued forbidden activities. Accepted social censure, economic punishment, violence. Rather submit absolute control. Rare, paid dearly, but existed, pushed back, said no. Slowly, resistance helped change. By late Victorian, obedience language controversial. Feminist writers questioned wives obey husbands. Progressive ministers suggested mutual love over hierarchy. Some couples modified vows, removed obey, replaced cherish. Scandalous. Some churches refused non-traditional marriages. Conservatives warned no obey marriages, chaos, divorce. But challenges continued. Obedience clause vanished many ceremonies 20th century, took longer think. Church England made obey optional 1928. Many brides included tradition. Not till 1970s and 80s obey largely gone Western vows. But attitude wives defer husbands, women's preferences less. Obedience feminine virtue persists subtler. See expectations women agreeable, accommodating, not assertive. Word bossy girls, not boys. Assumptions major family decisions. Victorian obedience clause gone most vows ghost haunts. What take? How recently absolute female obedience normal, right? Godly. Great-great-grandmother might promised obey. Great-grandmother grew believing wifely obedience virtuous, women equal partners marriage, recent, revolutionary, hard-won. Next, connects obedience. What happened children Victorian marriages? Wives obey husbands, children fathers entirely legally, mothers no rights. Touched Caroline Norton, now deeper custody laws, how worked, why existed, devastating ways controlled women via kids. But now, rest knowing obey no one, choice is yours, partnership replaced hierarchy, at least law, if not always practice. Progress worth celebrating, sleep well, see you journey next. You birth child, nurse infancy, sit fevers, nightmares, teach first words, steps. Poor being raising small person, then husband decides you unfit see anymore. Takes children, sends boarding, relatives, or bans nursery. Law says his right. No legal claim children birthed, raised. They his completely. Not nightmare, Victorian custody law, used weapon control women devastating ways. We've mentioned Caroline Norton, but tonight deeper what fathers owning children meant. Not just divorce, separation, everyday married life, constant threat, mothers, children taken any moment. Let's explore full horror, Victorian custody laws, women fought change. Legal principle, simple, brutal. Common law, children absolute father property, not joint, shared. Father's property, mother no rights, went centuries, rooted same legal fiction created coverture. Married woman ceased legal person. How non-person rights children. Father household head, legal guardian, sole authority. Mother mere caretaker, his pleasure, not theoretical, real implications. Father could take nursing infants' mothers, literally breastfeeding baby removed if wished. Courts no intervene, baby is property. Father could send kids' relatives as hired caretakers, no consult mother. She wake fine children gone, to his sister's Scotland, boarding Cornwall. No legal stop, even no scent. Father could forbid mother seeing entirely, if decided bad influence, angry or exercise authority, cut from own kids. If tried see, arrested trespass theft. Theft yes, kids his property, she taking his. Think. Mother seeing child charged stealing husband's property. Let me tell Ellen, not famous Caroline Norton, different Ellen Liverpool 1845. Ellen 3 kids ages 8, 6, Tharky. Husband Robert Merchant traveled much. Ellen raised alone basically, managed household, education. Then Ellen found Robert mistress. Confronted, he enraged, not guilt. Mistresses acceptable Victorian men. No, angry dared question. Punish, sent all 3 his mother's Ireland estate, 300 miles. Ellen no goodbye. Ellen wrote letters kids, Robert intercepted, tried visit, Robert's mother turned away orders. Ellen court begged access. Judge asked Robert if Ellen unfaithful or neglectful. Robert number good mother, but disrespected confronting mistress right discipline wife. Judge agreed, denied, told reconcile if want see kids. Ellen no choice. Apologized Robert, submitted, accepted mistress fact. After 6 months, Robert let kids home. But Ellen rest marriage knowing defy again. He'd take kids, legal, ultimate control, worse property, obedience, anything. Live without money, endure restriction, surveillance. But live knowing kids taken any time? Threat kept women compliant, nothing else. And not just marital conflict. Fathers used absolute authority ordinary too. Father decide daughter marry particular, mother object. No standing. Father's final. Father choose schools, religions, careers over mother's objections. Mother want son doctor, father military. Fathers prevailed, always. Father could refuse children's medical, even mother begged. If thought illness not serious, objected doctors, or no spend, refuse. Mother couldn't seek without permission, no legal contract consent, including medical. Heartbreaking cases, kids dying treatable because fathers refused, mothers powerless. Practice, most fathers no cruel absolute. Most loved kids, reasonable decisions. But power always, women knew. System created perverse incentives, separations, divorces. Recall till 1857 divorce near impossible, costly. But even legal separations, no remarry, live apart, gave custody father auto. Women abusive marriages, impossible choice. Stay abuser, protect kids access, or leave, lose kids entirely. Most stayed, kids marriage hostages, and woman adultery cheery accused, lost all rights kids immediate, permanent. Man adultery free no custody hits. Woman's single infidelity meant never see kids, even false accusation, double standard law. 1839, Custody Infants Act, first tiny reform, discussed soon, stated mothers convicted adultery no rights under new law, remained powerless. But back, how reform began. Story, incredible courage. Caroline Norton experienced firsthand. 1836, husband George sued adultery Prime Minister Lord Melbourne. Case dismissed. Caroline innocent, but George angry, vindictive used father legal rights punish. Took 3 sons, ages 8, 6, and 4, refused Caroline see. 2 years Caroline no see sons, no nowhere, care, health. Wrote letters George destroyed, tried visit turned away, youngest son died fall. Accident, perhaps preventable, better supervision. Caroline notified post-funeral. No goodbye. Grief, rage. Caroline felt turned action, wrote pamphlets, custody law, detailed own case, others, argued law unjust, mothers' natural rights kids, system harmed separating loving mothers, campaign controversial, accused unwomanly, vindictive, bad mother, drove husband take kids. But Caroline persisted, found Parliament allies, lobbied, wrote, refused silence. 1839, Parliament passed Custody Infants Act. Tiny reform, something, allowed mothers. Petitioned custody kids under 7, provided no adultery conviction. Courts could grant access if not custody, not equality. Fathers primary. Only under 7, any sexual impropriety disqualified mother. But first-time English law recognized mothers any rights kids. Revolutionary? Yes. First, law acknowledged mothers not just caregivers' father's pleasure, parents' own claims, but reform limited. Practice judges often cited fathers. Presumption fathers knew best. Women seeking custody new law faced intense stigma. What woman fought husband court kids? Unnatural, society whispered. Still, some won. Cases 1840s, 50s, mothers successful young kids custody. Each precedent, each slightly easier next fight. 1873, another reform extended age 16. Mothers petition up 16. Significant, covered childhood, adolescence years. 1886, Guardianship Infants Act. Stated courts considered child welfare custody decisions. Father's auto right reduced, not eliminated, reduced. Courts think best child, not father's property rights. Obvious now. Of course, custody prioritized child welfare, but 1886, radical, meant child person interests, not property allocated. Even then, fathers usually won. Presumption fathers better guardians. Mothers prove father unfit. Bar high. Alcoholism alone, no. Violence, mother, no. Father direct harmful kids, provably. But trajectory clear. Early Victorian absolute paternal to late limited maternal to 20th gradual shared custody, child welfare. Change glacially slow, happened women like Caroline Norton refused accept kids' property. Now, something unaddressed. What system did children, silent victims, children torn loving mothers, sent unwanted relatives or unhappy schools because fathers decided no maternal input? Kids witnessed fathers using them weapons against mothers. Victorian childhood memoirs, letters, full confusion, pain, parental separation. Kids couldn't understand no-see mothers. Told mothers bad, unwomanly, unfit. Grew believing mothers abandoned, reality forbidden contact, psychological damage real, lasting. But Victorian society little care children's psychological. Seen, not heard, raised strict, taught obedience. Feelings custody irrelevant. Some kids grown sought mothers separated, learned truth. Some rebuilt, others poisoned against reconciliation impossible. Damage rippled generations, and clear, system harmed boys, girls. Boys raised no maternal, taught women inferior. Property control. Learned fathers power wives, kids man's right. Created next controlling husbands. Girls learned motherhood, society's highest calling. No actual rights, authority. Learned love kids weaponized, learned fear. But some learned fight. Women challenging custody, court despite stigma, wrote lobbied demanded change, taught daughters unjust laws challengeable, women's voices matter, maternal love worth fight, and important, custody fight connected other women's rights. Couldn't argue mothers deserve custody without women rational, capable deciders. Once acknowledged women's competence parents, harder justify legal non-existence elsewhere. Custody reform paved property, divorce, suffrage. Each victory built others, each crack weakened structure. Early 20th, mothers increasingly won custody, especially young. Tender years doctrine emerged. Young kids need mothers. Progress, though problems assuming mothers naturally better. But ahead, Victorian era key. Mothers fought any rights, fought enormous resistance, legal, social, cultural, religious, fought knowing called unnatural, unwomanly, bad mothers, fought anyway. Next, most difficult topic series, divorce impossibility. Touched throughout, hard leave, expensive, socially destructive. Now, examine actual legal process, double standards, costs. Few women escape successfully. Understanding Victorian divorce pulls all, property, obedience, kids, reputation, control, into one near insurmountable barrier. But now, comfort maternal rights recognized, custody prioritizes child welfare, not father property, mother's love, not legally severed husband's whim. Caroline Norton, like women fought, won eventually. We benefit their courage daily. Rest peacefully knowing children yours love, protect, see you journey next. Everything discussed, property seizure, surveillance, dowries, obedience, custody, wedding night trauma, created one haunting Victorian women question. Can leave? Devastating answer. Most era, no, not legally, practically without losing all who you are, loved. Divorce, not difficult Victorian England. Designed, impossible, ordinary, catastrophically destructive women managing anyway. Tonight, divorce trap. How worked, cost, tiny handful escaped. Before 1857, divorce England so rare, most never knew divorce person. Not happy marriages. Divorce required Parliament Act. Explain absurd. Pre-1857, no divorce court. Three-step process expensive, humiliating, only very rich attempted. Step 1, husband, always, sue other man criminal conversation. Lawsuit claiming other man damaged husband's property. Sleeping wife. Yes, property, wife property. Sought monetary damages damage, tried civil court publicly, all sordid details. Step 2. Husband obtain ecclesiastical divorce, church courts, no remarry, basically legal separation church acknowledged, necessary step 3. Step 3. Husband petition Parliament private act dissolving marriage, Parliament debate grant, members discuss, vote, possibly reject, approve, pass law. Literal specific couple, ending marriage, allowing husband remarry. Cost $500 to $1,000. Today, roughly $75,000, $150,000. Average working man 50 year. Divorce 10, 20 years wages. Aristocracy very wealthy only. How many? 1700, 1857, 157 years. About 325. Averages 2 yearly whole country. And angering, 325, only 4 women, 4 157 years successfully divorced husbands, rest men divorcing wives. Why disparity? Grounds different. Man divorce adultery alone. One infidelity enough. Woman, no divorce adultery. Prove adultery plus additional. Incest, bigamy, rape, sodomy, physical cruelty, endangering life. Think double standard. Husband openly mistress, many did. Wife no grounds. Wife adultery once accused, husband divorce, destroy reputation forever. And woman somehow navigated impossible, obtained divorce, lost all. Kids, auto fathers, property already his coverture, reputation ruined. Society never accept divorced woman, cut circles, morally tainted, unmarriable. Some became governesses' companions, edges respectable. Some mistresses wealthy men, only financial option. Some workhouses, Divorce even obtained social death women. But 1857, Parliament passed Matrimonial Causes Act. Finally, divorce court processed no Parliament Act. Should revolutionary? Some ways, yes. Others codified double standard. 1857 Act established Divorce Matrimonial Causes Court London. One court country. Divorce, go London, lived Yorkshire, Cornwall, Wales, travel London, lodging, lawyers, stay proceedings. Expense alone outreach most, grounds still unequal, man divorce adultery, woman prove adultery plus aggravating, cruelty, desertion, 2 years, incest, rape, sodomy, bestiality. Act codified male adultery acceptable, female unforgivable. Numbers. First year post-Act 1858, about 300 petitions, lot compared to yearly. But millions married couples, 300 yearly rare, even small number obstacles, proceedings public, newspapers reported salacious detail, every accusation, evidence, humiliating public, neighbors, employer, family no. Women especially, publicity devastating. Woman seeking divorce publicly testify husband's adultery, cruelty, describe abuse graphic, expose private pain scrutiny, judged legally, socially. Telling truth or vengeful exaggerating, even when reputation suffered. Let me tell Isabella filed 1863. Husband Thomas violent years, broke ribs, blackened eyes, threw downstairs once. Kept mistress house, rented Isabella's inheritance money. Grounds, adultery plus cruelty. Filed, court. Isabella testified beatings, mistress letters, life fear. Thomas's lawyer argued hysterical, provoked violence disobedience, injuries not severe, claimed. Court granted. Isabella free, but newspaper brutal. One implied difficult wife drove violence, infidelity. Another suggested greed his money. Reputation destroyed, family humiliated, moved different city, different name, never spoke marriage, that victory. Successful divorce woman looked like, many no win. Courts, skeptical female petitioners, judges questioned motives, testimony, character. Unless evidence overwhelming ruled husband's favor, suggested reconciliation. 1869 casewoman sought divorce. Husband infected venereal disease from prostitutes. Judge acknowledged adultery, suggested forgive Christian charity, said unforgiving, lost, sent home to infector. Imagine rage, helplessness, proof adultery, harm, present court, told forgive, home. Happened repeatedly. Women evidence violence, neglect, adultery, cruelty. Denied because judges felt not tried enough marriage or provoked or believed wives endure hardship. Cost prohibitive, even court, legal fees substantial. Lawyers, court costs, London travel, Sandi Channor stay. 1857 Act theoretical middle-class access, practice comfortable middle above, working class no legal divorce, separated informally, husband, wife left. Sometimes wife sale, pseudo-ritual husband symbolically sold, wife public market another man. No legal validity, but social recognition marriage end, or lived apart, new relationships no divorce. Bigamy common working classes, divorce impossible. Couldn't end first legally, want marry else, bigamy. Law sometimes punished, often ignored. Understood divorce outreach poor. Now, post-divorce. Men life normal. Divorced man remarry no stigma. Maintain career, friends, standing. Some gossip, nothing ending. Women disaster. Divorced considered morally compromised. Respectable families no receive. No social events. Churches may be refused communion. Employment limited. Respectable positions need character references. Who vouched divorced? And lost kids. Custody law divorce almost always father retained. Divorced mother visitation if lucky, sympathetic judge, usually lost entirely. So even divorce success destroyed women's lives. System made leaving costly women endure almost anything avoid. Worked. Most bad marriages stayed, staying terrible, leaving worse. Later reforms. 1878. Matrimonial Causes Act allowed magistrates grant separation orders, not divorce, to women husbands convicted aggravated assault. Cheaper, accessible full divorce. Allowed lives separate, keep wages. Small, mattered. Violent marriages, women escape no expense publicity, full divorce. No remarry, but independent. Thousands used. 1923 post-Victorian, grounds equalized. Women divorce adultery alone like men. Took 1923 law, acknowledge female-male adultery equal end marriage grounds. But Victorian-era message clear. Marriage permanent. Endure. Submit. Obey. Leaving no option, except women left anyway. Chose poverty, social death over abusive marriages, fought courts, endured publicity, lost kids, reputations, chose freedom. Rare. Most couldn't afford cost, bear consequences. But did paved reform. Every divorce case, especially women brought, challenged marriage indissoluble. Every left proved system threats not keep all trapped, reformers noted. Each publicized divorce, abuse neglect story reached courts, strengthened change arguments. If marriage sacred, why many terrible? If wives' duties husbands, shouldn't husbands' duties wives? Questions divorce cases raised couldn't ignore forever. Victorian divorce system reveals full horror coverture. One thing say women lose legal existence marriage. Another realize can't escape no matter within. Property seizure permanent, obedience lifelong, abuse inescapable, custody loss irreversible, trap closes. Yet system changed slowly, painfully setbacks, limitations. Changed women refused accept suffering inevitable. Fought courts, parliament, public. Wrote, spoke, testified, endured humiliation. Loss proved system unjust. Early 20th, divorce accessible. Mid-century, no fault some jurisdictions. Late 20th, relatively common, acceptable. Change over century happened. Next, shift gears little. Something seemed less serious reveals much Victorian marriage. Marital rape, legal conjugal rights concept, touched wedding night, now ongoing reality. Wear threads together. Property, obedience, trapped no escape, complete bodily autonomy loss, difficult culmination all explored. But now, rest knowing divorce accessible. Can leave. Marriage choice exit if harmful. Freedom say done matter legally, socially, precious. Victorian women fought, won eventually. We benefit suffering, courage. Sleep well. See you journey this part. We need talk something brings every thread. Property law, obedience, divorce, impossibility, custody threats, wedding night trauma. Need talk married woman couldn't legally refuse husband ever any reason. Body his is completely property. Marital rape not legal. Concept non-existent. Law considered impossible husband rape wife. Marriage permanent sexual consent. Perhaps darkest Victorian marriage law aspect. Crucial understand shows completely marriage stripped women autonomy. Tonight examining conjugal rights. Practice meant how long injustice lasted. Not easy, history matters. Before continue, acknowledge deeply disturbing. Discussing legalized sexual violence, step away if need. But stay, understand essential far come, gains required. Start legal foundation. Understanding law reveals thoroughly system dehumanized married women. English common law, marriage legal contract. Woman said, I do. Consenting marriage, all obligations including sexual. Consent permanent, irrevocable. Once alter, never withdrawn. Wife promising obey included submit sexually whenever, however husband wished rest lives. Not hidden, shameful, stated openly legal texts, marriage manuals. 1851, legal commentary. Husband cannot guilty rape upon wife. Mutual matrimonial consent, contract, wife given self-kind husband cannot retract. Cannot retract. Given permanent permission. Future self, no voice. Present feelings irrelevant. Couldn't change mind, say no. Withdraw consent given 18-20-22. Think practical. Wife ill-forced. Just given birth forced. Grieving, exhausted, pain, unwilling, no matter. Law said husband conjugal rights, she no refuse. Not theory. Victorian courts reinforced repeatedly. Women sought protection, husbands' sexual demands, courts ruled against. Women tried leave marriages, partly forced sexual, judges told submitting duty. 1840 London case, woman sought separation, husband, citing among grievances violent, frequent force, often ill. Judge, husband's conjugal rights absolute. Wife no grounds refuse. Complaint suggested difficult, unwilling wife not abuse victim. Separation denied. Clear. Woman testified sexual violence. Judge response, his right, your wife. Go home. Law. Justice. Victorian England. Marriage manuals helped couples navigate, reinforced while softening moderation advice husbands. 1870 guide advised husbands, while right claim when wish, excessive frequency harm health, wife's delicate constitution. Moderation wise, concern husband's health, not wife's consent, advice frequency, not her want participate. 1863 manual wives, husband's needs urgent, natural, yours quiet, spiritual, submit grace, patience. Wife refuses drive, seek elsewhere. Bears moral blame, infidelity. Catch? Forces her, unhappy, her fault unwilling. Refuses mistress, her fault refusing. Either blamed. Either no bodily autonomy. Religious reinforcement constant. Ministers preached wives submit all including marital. Refusal sin. Wife's body husband's scripture ordained. St. Paul quoted endless, wife no authority own body, husband does. Created culture, women hurt, unwilling, said no, told sinning. Suffering evidence virtue lack. Good wife submitted no complaint, godly wife never refused. But women refused? Some husbands accepted at least sometimes. Not all Victorian men rapists. Many couples negotiated intimate mutual respect despite legal. But law gave husbands absolute. Some used. Wife refuse. Husband physically force. Beat compliance. Threaten take kids. Cut money. Throw out. All legal. Law supported enforce conjugal rights any means. Horrifying 1891 case changed law. Important discuss. Edmund Jackson married Emily. Shortly, Emily left. Reasons disputed, clear no want married him. Edmund sued restitution conjugal rights, legal demanding wife return living husband. Emily refused. Edmund found street, forcibly grabbed, locked house against will. Imprisoned own wife enforced conjugal rights. Emily's friends court seeking habeas corpus writ, order free unlawfully detained. Case appeal court ruled Emily's favor, said while husband conjugal rights, not imprison in force. Remedy, wife refusing divorce separation, not imprisonment, revolutionary. First English law acknowledged limits conjugal rights. Husband not literally imprison wife. Ruling Regina v. Jackson 1891 established, but notice ruling not say. Not say wives refuse consent, not say marital rape crime, just imprisonment not acceptable enforcement. Husband could still force sexually, just not lock room. Took 1891, Victorian end for limited protection, most period, imprisonment legal. Husbands could did confine refusing wives. Now, Women's health implications severe. Victorian women no contraception access, illegal, immoral. Every intercourse pregnancy risk. Victorian women often many pregnancies, 8 to 10 to 12 kids common, each risk a death serious injury. Childbirth leading women death cause. Husband exercising conjugal rights, potentially sentencing wife another dangerous pregnancy. Couldn't refuse, couldn't contracept, couldn't space safely, body, health, life his disposal. Some doctors quietly advised avoid pregnancy methods, withdrawal, timing, barriers. Advice scandalous, unreliable. Most women no info, options. Woman pregnant repeatedly, health suffered, begged stop, not required listen. Medical advice sometimes men limit frequency own health, not wives' safety. Woman warn constant pregnancies, weakened childbirth, still no say no. Heartbreaking records, women dying 10th, 12th childbirth, exhausted. Husbands remarry, start new wife. System consumed women's bodies, lives, saw nothing wrong. Victorian feminists recognized, called legalized prostitution. Women forced submit sexually exchanged support, demanded married women right refuse. Argued true marriage mutual consent, not permanent submission. Arguments radical, scandalous, anti-marriage. Critics said wives refuse, marriages collapse. Men tortured unfulfilled desire. Civilization depended women's sexual availability, husbands. But reformers persisted. Pointed current law made marriage slavery women. Consent once age 20 not meaningful decades later. Women's bodies belong women, not husbands. Slowly attitudes shifted. Late Victorian, some progressive argued husbands respect wives' wishes. Force within marriage wrong. Marital violence including sexual acknowledged abuse. But law, no change Victorian. Marital rape legal England till 1991. 1991, not typo. Till 1991, husband legally rape wife England, not crime. Sink in. People alive today born world marital rape legal. Mother, grandmother might married time husbands legally couldn't rape. Rape marriage impossible. Change RVER. Man raped estranged wife. Left, living separate. Broke home, assaulted, charged rape. Defense, husband, not guilty rape. Court rejected, ruling marital rape exemption no longer valid modern law. 1991, 33 years ago time speaking. Victorian principle marriage permanent sexual consent lasted century past era. Why long? Changing meant admitting generations women victimized legally. Meant acknowledging marriage legally constructed fundamentally unjust. Upsetting power balance, benefiting men. Resistance every step. Reform proposed, opponents argued wives use rape accusations vindictively. Marriages destroyed legal interference. Men vulnerable false. Same against 1991 reform used over century. But law changed finally. Enough recognized consent ongoing, bodily autonomy fundamental. Marriage not a raise say no right. What strikes most history reveals full scope Victorian marriage law's injustice. Talked property, obedience, custody, divorce. But underneath, body not yours, cannot refuse. Permanently consented, cannot withdraw. Not marriage, ownership. Victorian legal system explicitly treated wives' own property. But women resisted. Some refused despite law, some left despite costs, some spoke despite censure. Slowly, resistance changed minds, culture, finally law. Reached end exploration, Victorian marriage darkest. Examined system controlled women legally, financially, socially, physically, sexually. How made marriage inescapable, submission mandatory. How lasted longer like believe. Final part, look brings hope. Revolution changed all. Explore how Victorian women allies fought back, how reform movements emerged, how each small victory built bigger change. Systems seemed eternal did crumble. Laws changed. Women gained rights. Understanding how happened important understanding oppression preceded. But now, rest knowing body yours. Consent, give, withhold every moment. Marriage creates partnership, not ownership. Truth's obvious now, hard won. Women fought. Some died before victories, fought anyway. We benefit courage daily. Sleep peacefully tonight, holding close rights, generations women struggled secure. Meet final part journey. Victorian marriage, resistance, reform, revolution. After all explored, legal death, property seizure, surveillance, obedience, custody battles, divorce impossibility, marital rape, you might wonder how ever changed. How system entrenched supported law, religion, custom eventually crumbled. Answer simple, extraordinary. Women refused accept. Individual women tremendous cost said no. Organized movements decades demanded. Male allies injustice joined. Inch painful inch system gave. Tonight, final part. Celebrating revolution transformed Victorian marriage ownership partnership. Understanding change happened important oppression preceded. Start resistance not new. Even darkest Victorian marriage law periods, women pushed. Quietly, individually, often great risk. Did. Some simply refused marry. Chose spinsterhood despite pressure, called unnatural, economic insecurity. Unmarried poor, better married powerless. By 1850s, hundreds thousands unmarried women England. Society called surplus cruelly, but many not surplus. Women looked marriage law, said, no thank you. Other women married, negotiated private husband agreements, informal deals, manage household no interfere spending, defer publicly respect opinions privately. No legal weight, some couples honored. Not every Victorian man tyrant. Some genuinely loved wives, treated equals constraints law. Some women openly defied husbands, accepted consequences, met several series. Women refused obey, fought custody, sought divorces, insisted rights law said none. Each made change possible. But individual resistance brave, not enough. Systematic change needed organized movements, emerged mid-Victorian, driven remarkable women turned personal suffering political action. Caroline Norton, one catalyst. After losing children, property, not grieve, wrote, published pamphlets custody and justice, lobbied parliament members, turned private tragedy public advocacy. Work directly led 1839 Custody Infants Act. Small reform proved possible. Barbara Bodichon, born 1827, another key, feminist, artist, activist. 1854 published brief summary plain language, most important laws concerning women. Clear explanation marriage law oppressed women. Pamphlet widely read, shocking. Many middle-class women unaware complete rights lost marriage. Barbara's educated education sparked outrage. 1856. Barbara organized Parliament petition demanding married women's property reform. Collected over 26,000 signatures. Enormous era, tremendous courage. Signing public challenge order. Petition presented Parliament, ignored. But seeds planted. Barbara continued writing, organizing, educating. Co-founded English Woman's Journal, advocated rights, helped establish society promoting employment women. Instrumental founding Girton College, first women's Cambridge. Every initiative chipped women naturally inferior, needed male control. Then Josephine Butler fought related battle. Josephine campaigned against 1860s contagious diseases. Acts allowed police force suspected prostitution, women invasive medical exams. Josephine argued state-sanctioned sexual assault, manifestation belief underlay marital rape, women's bodies, public property, male use, control. Campaign controversial, explicit. Talked publicly, sexual violence, women's bodily autonomy, double standard punished female sexuality, excused male exploitation. Polite society horrified, Josephine persisted. 1886 Acts repealed. Victory proved entrenched, sexual control challenged, defeated. And Emmeline Pankhurst, suffragettes recognized without political power, women always vulnerable. Long men only vote, men make laws, no incentive grant rights benefited denying. Vote fight everything, property, custody, divorce, bodily autonomy. Women vote, change oppressive laws, suffrage long, difficult, sometimes violent, suffragettes arrested, force-fed prison, ostracized. Emily Davison, 1913, died stepping King's Horse Derby, martyr. Resistance fierce, stakes existential, women vote, patriarchal structure threatened, worked. 1918, some women vote, over 30 property qualifications. 1928, equalized, women vote same men terms. Took decades campaigning, sacrifice, suffering, happened. Now legal reforms mention series, see larger pattern. 1839 Custody Infants Act, Mothers Petition Custody under 7. 1857 Matrimonial Causes Act, Divorce Court Theoretical Access Beyond Wealthy. 1870 First Married Women's Property Act, Women Keep Earnings, Small Inheritances. 1878 Matrimonial Causes Act expanded, Women Seek Separation, Aggravated Assault. 1882 Second Married Women's Property Act, Women Own Property as Unmarried. 1886 Guardianship Infants Act, Child Welfare Custody Consideration. 1886 Contagious Diseases Acts repealed. 1891 Regina V.O. Jackson, Husbands Not Imprison Wives Enforce Conjugal Rights. Pattern? Each decade reforms, each limited, compromised, insufficient, but built previous, established precedent. Proved change possible. Importantly, each fought, none passed Parliament, sudden enlightened, passed women, allies created ignore-proof pressure, wrote, spoke, petitioned, protested, litigated, made status quo untenable, male allies crucial. John Stuart Mill philosopher, Parliament member, passionate women's rights advocate. 1869 book Subjection. Women argued subordination morally wrong, socially harmful. Mill Parliament position, introduce women's suffrage bills, support property reform. Other men, lawyers, doctors, ministers, writers, added voices. Some motivated seeing wives, daughters suffer. Some justice, some love, specific women opened eyes. Whatever, support mattered. System men only political power, male allies essential. But heroes women fought no power. Caroline Norton no vote, legal standing, platform beyond created will force. Barbara Bodichon no official authority. Josephine Butler no political. Suffragettes no legal recourse arrested, force-fed. Fought anyway, believed justice, refused accept suffering inevitable, wanted better daughters, granddaughters, and moves most, many, not live full victory. Caroline Norton died 1877, pre-married women property rights. Barbara Bodichon died 1891 pre-vote, fought change, never experience, planted trees, never shade, courage changes world, hope sustains movements generations. Early 20th century Victorian marriage system crumbling, women own property, divorce possible difficult, custody considered child welfare, women entering universities, professions, living independent, Legal non-existence, married women ending. 1918, women political power. Vote meant elect representatives, protect interests, influence law directly. Final barrier breached, but progress not linear, complete. Even post-legal reforms culture lagged. Working women seen taking men jobs, divorced social stigma, unmarried pied failures, angel house ideal, perfect submissive domestic wife, persisted many minds 20th century. Some worst Victorian marriage law lasted shockingly long. Mentioned marital rape, legal England till 1991. Equal pay not fully. Women's bodily autonomy contested many places. Fight not over, but much better. Better women fought seeming hopeless, fought devastating cost, fought daughters deserved better. What learn history? First systems seem eternal change. Victorian marriage law immovable, supported religion, law, custom, economic, most sincere beliefs. Yet, changed, committed, refused injustice. Second change, slow, frustrating. Caroline Norton's 1830s first pamphlet to 1918 vote, 80 years. 1870 first property reform to 1991, marital rape exemption elimination, over century. Progress longer, one lifetime, happens each generation builds previous. Third individual resistance matters seeming futile. Every woman refused marry, fought custody, defied husband, spoke, contributed change, proved women not accept oppression silent, inspired others, shifted culture, small ways accumulated large. Fourth, Odette fought before, every right, own property, vote, work, divorce, body control, one women sacrificed, some lost reputations, kids, lives, benefit suffering, courage. Fifth fight continues, come far, not enough, women still discrimination, violence, control. Many world parts. Women live similar Victorian. Even legal equality countries, cultural attitudes reflect history. Still fighting Victorian marriage system echoes. But no change possible, seen happen, no resistance worked before. No determined justice fighters move mountains, exactly Victorian era beyond. Tonight, close journey Victorian marriage, feel several. Feel outrage what was. Legal death, property theft, custody battles, violence, control, all real, wrong. Feel gratitude changed. Women fought, allies helped, reforms won, rights inherited. Feel responsibility continue work. Recognize progress not guaranteed, rights lost, each generation defend, expand previous achieved. Feel hope. If Victorian women challenge seeming eternal system win, we continue. Address injustices remain. Build world marriage true partnership, all.